So, welcome back to our session 3, where we'll be covering the part 2, which is related to integrity, research integrity, and honesty. So, this is part of the research language at the Publication Ethics RLP 102. So, let me directly go to that content region. It's, I think, page 10. Okay. So, yeah, what we are talking about the intellectual honesty and research integrity. So first of all, you need to be what need to know what is the honesty, and the term the research integrity will be the second part of this lecture. So first, we will define what is the intellectual honesty. So the first honesty term itself, we know this is a practice you do. It's a moral duty. Need to be honest, and this is especially important, particularly when we share the ideas, information related to research, or not only research but also any other things also, right? So there's a common practice we do. Now, what is the intellectual honesty? The intellectual honesty which we talk about, that is basically combines two things. It's a good faith with a primary motivation towards seeking the true beliefs, what we believes, right, by heart, and we try to checking the truth, right? So you combine the your intellectual ability with the faith, right? So the in short, the definition will be the intellectual honesty is honesty in acquisition, analysis, and transmission of the ideas. So basically, when you perform a research, you start with some objective to generate the ideas, and based on the what previously done, and then you carry forward that one. While doing that one, then you need to do some research. You need to do a data
Sorry, sir.
clear idea to make it work it out, right? So while doing that, then you need to integrate the intellectual honesty as a part of the practice. So the person being called as a intellectually honest when he or she knows the truth and state the truth. So you should not do the things which is not a person which is not well known. Then you should not do that kind of activity. So you know the truth and uh, then state that truth. Okay. So there are different form of this intellectual honesty. For example, it starts like a scholarship, consequence and conversation, and also called something called public communication. So when you talk about the scholarship, basically honesty, the integrity comes in the sense that suppose you want to give a scholarship to some student, and then you need to make a list of student and then scrutinize them properly by honestly, right? And then provide the right person to be. So there is no chances of the wrong practice, the honesty way you do that one. So proper person should be judged and given. So that's the one in terms of intellectual honesty contribution. Now, when you talk about the consequential conversation, for example, you are talking about the dialogues and debates and negotiations for purchasing something or any other things you are doing, and product service you are giving as a person, then you need to be very clear about your what you are talking, and that should also include the intellectual honesty. There are public communication when talk about, for example, there is an announcement or you are providing a lecture, you are providing instruction, giving any kind of public communication, being as a scientist, not only being as a scientist, even if you are a journalist, then also you should not put something which is not familiar to you or you are not understanding fully. So that kind of things practice should not be done, and that will be just opposite of the intellectual honesty. So need to be very careful while doing research for your PhD thesis. Now, so this is actually a kind of a applied method of problem solving, right? So you are applying this intellectual honesty while solving a problem, right? So PhD part of the work is a when your idea generated, objective cleared, and then you start working. While doing that one, and you have to apply this kind of intellectual honesty matter on that. So there should not be any biasness. So you should do it with a proper judgment, honest with honest attitude. Now, what are the way you can demonstrate this intellectual honesty is reflecting or not, right? So ensuring you make sure that the ideologies that do not affect the pursuit of the truth, right? Also, you should not purposefully omit um, the what you actually sometimes you find out something and you what you proposed or what are the objective you have been set up, and after doing the research you find out that something else, right? So in order to keep your objective with align your what you are finding, so that may not be the right things, right? So if it is a contradictory comes, and then you actually try to purposefully omit the what you are finding. So you should not do that. So whatever research findings coming, even it goes to your whatever hypothesis, whatever the idea you start, you try to pursue on that and bring the logic and why that is happening, and if something that's the way to contribute the something new in the existing knowledge, right? I think somebody's mic is on. Let me put everybody's mic off. uh, I request all of you to put up mic off. Ritya Supadhyay. Anybody else? Okay. Now, yeah, so it is a applied method, and then what I think about intellectual honesty, is the applied one, and that what just now talk about the purposefully you should not omit the things. So while presenting a fact, so it should not be unbiased, and it should not be twisted, right? And that may mislead something information you are providing. So that's a absolutely wrong practice. You should not do that. References and earlier work. So when you do this kind of activity, when you want to incorporate your intellectual honesty, you properly reference it and acknowledge the earlier work, right? And because later on we'll be talking on this topic more details actually why it is so important. Let me give you some example. The one of the students working with me, and then he put up the first report for the thesis title clearance, and then I asked, why did you not put why you have not put up references whatever the earlier. He already done the literature survey, and then when writing the report not putting the enough, then he told, no sir, if I put that one, so that might be not looks like very new. Then I said it's not the practice. You always state other work and tell them what has been done, and what why you think that your work should be pursued, right? It is a thesis clearance. So you should not avoid any references, because nowadays plagiarism checks are done by everywhere. All journal wherever you put. Okay, even this is also uh, pass through the plagiarism checking. So you cannot avoid any information, existing information, and tell them the trouble though it is there, but you are proposing that that is completely new in order to make in your favor. So that should not be done, right? So we'll talk about this topic in later stage. Two times we'll be coming on to in plagiarism, and how to remove the plagiarism free writing. So that time also we'll talk about this part in details, right? Now, next is how to find out, or there is a method to find out the intellectual honesty. So that's what I put up a question over here. How to perform an intellectual honesty test? So there are many ways you can do, and all journal checkers actually the nowadays they ask you to perform the plagiarism check, whether you have done the practice honestly or not, right? So there are many way. I put up this diagram. This will be very familiar. Those are doing the computational work. So they use this kind of logic flow and yes, no, and then finally come to the conclusion. And whenever the anything find out fishy, and then the journal will ask you to this kind of they'll make a committee, and committee will be asked various questions, and based on the questionnaire answers come out, then they'll bring the result out, right? And also there is a article actually published in Social Science, and where it is says an experimental test of intellectual honesty. So if you are interested a little more details to find out what is intellectual honesty means, and how it can be used to find out the wrong practice, so you can go through this paper. I just put up here the link. You can directly get the PDF of that article. Okay. Now, the next part is called research integrity, right? So, you do a research, and what is research? You sitting or standing on the shoulder, whatever the existing information is there, okay, right, on the topic, and then you do literature survey, and then try to propose something, set up the object, and start doing the work. But when you want to do the work, and then you think about the integrity, right? So research integrity, it's basically defines as a devotion to the ethical problems, right? So you have to devote something. So there is nothing called just um, just do something and you say, yeah, it is new and it should be publishable, or my thesis should be bind up. No, it is not like that. So research, first of all, it is not a cup of tea. That should be everybody should be keep in mind. And you need a endless your patience. Your patience should be 100%, because sometimes things does not work and you need to do again and again. So what actually we need in you, your patience should be there, your time. You have to spend a lot of time to find out something, where is missing, something not working, right? So you should not do that one. So that's what called active devotion to ethical principles. So we already talk about some of the principles on the ethics. Almost 6, 7 points over there. So remember those points, right? Principle. So in order to maintain the professional standards, so you need this kind of research integrity. And then let's find out what the in details what the active devotion means and what is the ethical principles means, right? So active devotion basically mean adoption of the principles and practices as personal belief, not simply accepting them as a imposition by the rule makers, right? So it is not rules by somebody, some rule makers, right? So whatever the research you are or whatever the methodology you are applying, and and then uh, you just based on that you find out some whatever the practice you do or research continue, and whatever the findings are coming, based on that your conclusion is coming, right? So that that comes with a basically the good practice, right? So here actually it's not like a somebody make a rules and you just accept it and go ahead. No, this is not like that. So now what is the meaning of the ethical principles? So this basically means that already we have given 5 or 6 points of our in the ethical principles. So here I just cut down little bit, just put up in short. So it basically means honesty, the golden rule, trustworthiness, and high regards for the scientific record. say why it is say the scientific record and why research is so important. It is not like a there is a very big difference between PhD scholar or PhD students with a master students, right? Because one is performing laboratory experiment or whoever do theoretical work or study something in the field. What are the practicals given, set of practicals given in the course. But when you talk about the PhD scholar or you are finding something as a research level, then there is nothing like protocol or the setup. So you have to develop a protocol, you have to develop a methodology and finding something new. And if you are finding something new and try to put up scientific community, and that will be forever, because that whatever you write in a piece of paper, so even if you are not in this world, but that written part information will be there. And that's what when we publish something, we are very, very careful to think about it. And each and every word we have to look it up. Each and every section we have to think about it, whether it is right, whether it is wrong. You should put up this one or not. So this kind of details integrity you'll find out when you start working and getting the result and try to pursue or publishing work. So that time is a very, very crucial. So you'll be experiencing this kind of things throughout your PhD training, right? So the national agency actually gives some thing called they actually give the definition of this research integrity, which is something just I put up in the inverted comma. The individual research integrity is an aspect of moral character and experience. It involves above all commitment to intellectual honesty and personal responsibility for own action and to a range of practices that characterize responsible research conduct. So something that just I highlighted from this quote, a range of practices that characterize the responsible research. So when you talk about somebody as a responsible researcher, then we need to find out some key integrity in him, right? So the person who is conducting the research. So what are the range of practices? So here I just put a few of them, and when you are performing your research, then you must keep it mind these points. For example, these practices included honesty and fairness while proposing, performing, and reporting the research. So you must have a honesty as much as possible, right? Otherwise, paper will be retracted, information will be not accepted scientifically, it will be demoralized, your image will be go bad. So there are many things can happen. Next thing we talk about the accuracy. See, data accuracy, this part will be again I will be talking also. Accuracy in the sense, see, if you get a data, right, and somebody also get the data, but what is the tolerance level? What are the standard deviation or the average deviation? So deviation, if you talk about the minimum deviation gives the more accuracy in that result. So while you proposing your things, contributing something or representing some contribution to the research proposal and report, then accuracy has to be maintained. Next is called proficiency and fairness in peer review. So far you have, if you may not have done any review of somebody's work, right? So we do practice as a scientist. You get a activity something called as a reviewer in the editor level or journal reviewer. We get somebody's work to review it and give some feedback to the journal, and then they based on your review response, they'll decided to whether they keep it or just reject it or accept it some major or minor modification, something like that. So while doing that, you have to be very proficient in fairness. You should not have any biasness. You should not have any biasness. So that should be a good practice, because once the journal or site find out that you are a scientist and you are not a good honesty level, you are doing the work, then next time they will not give you this kind of job. So that's very clear, very clear. So there is nothing called hawking and cooking. So it should be very fairness should be there. Now next one is the collegiality. In scientific interaction, communication, sharing of resources, and disclosure of conflict of interest. Collegiality means something, if you are working with a team, and then you maintain some collegiality with your colleagues, right? So you should not be too rude to somebody else or whoever working with your co-workers. So while you are interacting, so that same collegiality level in scientific temperament also you have to be incorporated, right? So when your interaction, scientific interaction happening with a supervisor, or scientific interaction happening with somebody somewhere, you are presenting your work, whether it is a conference presentation, whether your RPC presentation, anywhere, any kind of interaction happening, scientific discussion happening, then you should maintain the collegiality, right? You can argue it, but argue with a good manner, not but argue with a good manner, not a bad way, right? So that's called collegiality. Protection of, next one is the protection of human subjects. So if you are using somebody, human being, as a part of a research, then you have to protect the subject. You cannot expose to everyone. So last day I give this example. I know these points will be coming again, and that I sufficient enough I will explain why you should maintain the object, human being use, protect the human being when you are using as a part of a research, right? Also, when you are using the animals as a part of research also, then also you need to careful about the human cares of the humanities. You have to maintain the on the animals. So if you're most of the monkey as you use for the conducting some kind of research activity, or you can use sometime rabies, but they have to be handled in such a way, they should not be they should not be harmful to by your research, right? So that's those things has to be very careful. So these are the few things or range of practice that that called the research that is a part of the research integrity. Few more points to be also incorporated. For example, it is a mutual responsibility of a mentor and trainees. So if you are a PhD scholar and you have a supervisor, so both of has a mutual responsibility to follow the research program faithfully, right? Faithfully, you have to perform your research and report the research, whatever you do related to your research. So that is a mutual responsibility. It is not like the one will be doing something another. But if somebody is not practicing properly, the mentor has a rights to make trainees to do a good practice with research integrity and honesty. So basically, science, I think not only science, technology, I like both science and technology encourages uh, vigorous defense of own ideas and hard work, right? So vigorous defense. So you'll be, let's say, after finishing your PhD work, and then at the end you have to submit your thesis, and you have to defend your thesis. So while doing that one, there is a lot of discussions will be among with you, your supervisor, and who is the evaluator of your thesis. Even not only the end part, thesis end part, but also before that there will be many RPC will be there, and during that period you have to maintain this kind of research integrity as a good practice, right? So what is the ultimate definition? In one line, we can say research integrity means basically examining the data with objectivity and being guided by the results rather than by preconceived notions. So whatever you proposed or the objective you set up, so the data may not align with that. That is contradictory. So that's the points already we have discussed. So even though it is a contradicting your ideas or whatever the objective you have set it up, so you should go by the results coming. And while doing the results analysis, you should add the integrity, honest, and last class we have discussed about the ethics. So you add combined all these things, and top of that you have to have a good knowledge, subject knowledge, to analyze the data. And that part in the beginning level you will not get it. So supervisor will guide you slowly one by steps how to do a data analysis and how to interpret them. Supervisor has a good knowledge on that, what are the steps. Even sometimes supervisor may not know exactly the direction you are starting. Sometimes their new direction started in the group. So in even that point also supervisor will contact somebody who is uh, better in that area. So it is a combined effect. Your supervisor as well as you both of us to learn parallelly from sometime for somebody from someone else, right? Who know the thing better to make it a confidence. So that's the way science and technology works actually. Okay. So research integrity and the honesty is a kind of a good practice, and you must incorporate in your research while performing research as well as reporting the data for scientific publications, right? So now I'll give you some of the questions. Uh, Maybe I can stop recording. So here the screen showing the question number 1, 2, 3, 4 questions, and you may find out some of the question from the previous exam paper. Okay, I'll share also those things sometime. So here are the few links over here, so you can use those links. Maybe what I'll do, let me